Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Wednesday Q&A show where I answer your questions. Every week, people ask me questions, and the following week, I answer those questions. So this week, we got some pretty cool questions. I'm going to show some pretty cool books, and let's get right into it. The first question comes from Mike Swintel, who asks, speaking of Jungle Girls, could you show your top 5 Merriem and Fauna Cavewoman fauna from the Cavewoman series? Okay, so I can't show my top 5. I can tell you why. So Cavewoman has really great covers, just amazing covers. However, most of them are nude, so I can't show them. But I will show you some, risque but not too risque books that are really great. I actually like these covers, but they're not my top 5. So this is Cavewoman, number 1B. This is a Bud Root cover, and it's a wraparound. And it's, it kind of gives you a sense of Bud Root's style. And then the other big artist that worked on Cavewoman is Devin Massey. And this is, I like magic covers. Just a personal thing. I think this one's cute because she pulls the rabbit out of the hat, but a dinosaur eats it. So if you're not familiar with Cavewoman, it's basically big boob girls plus dinosaurs. That's pretty much all you need to know to understand this series. So this is Cavewoman Carnival. I'm not even sure what number it is. No, I don't know. I think maybe it's just a one-shot. Now, the main artist that I really like, though, was Bud Root. And this is actually Cavewoman number 1. This is the very first appearance of Cavewoman, and this is where it all started. So this is Cavewoman number 1. And you can see he's really good at drawing dinosaurs and beautiful women. So that's where it all started. So that's number 1. And here's some more Bud Root ones that are really nice. There's he even draws Yetis quite well. These snow apes. This is actually a limited edition one of 750. Yeah, there's that. And then I actually got a signed one as well. This is where he tries. I'm not even sure what that is. It's not really a triceratops, but yeah. So this is a signed one. Does it say? And it's this Cavewoman convention book. And here's another Devin Massey one. I thought this one was kind of cool. This might be, actually, I really like this one. Sort of reminds me of King Kong a little bit. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I just really like this one. And one more. This is a Frank Cho cover. Actually, it might be Frank Cho's first cover art. So this is published cover art, I should say. So this is a Cavewoman from 1998, and yeah, it's jungle. It's Cavewoman Jungle Tales. So that's that one. So main cover artists though were Bud Root and Devin Massey. So those are some Jungle Girls. I hope you enjoyed them. I actually have a whole short box just filled with Cavewoman, but most of them I can't show, which just kind of sucks. But sorry, I did try. I really did try. Matt Atkinson wrote, I love the red slave girl cover that is behind you. What is the story behind that book and the series? Okay, so that book is actually Slave Girl number 2. And you get to see it up close for once. So it's a really cool series. So we got the 2 main characters on the cover. We got Malu, or Malu, maybe? Malu. And then it's Garth. And he's sort of her protector. So basically the story behind it is that they are, he's like her protector. And basically she's actually a princess who has been abducted and taken to some faraway kingdom where she becomes basically a slave girl. And he goes there as a spy to try to find her. And the way he knows that it's her is by a signet ring that she wears. And when he discovers her, he tries to basically bring her back, but they get like captured and like a whole bunch of bad things happen. And the whole story is them trying to get back to their home, which is Armuz. And basically that's the story. So they're trying to get back. He's like her protector. He like punches and uses his sword to fight against all the various people that go up against them. And they're just trying to get back to their kingdom. And they have adventures along the way. So, yeah, so this is Slave Girl. And it was only the 2 issues. There was only 2 issues of Slave Girl. And there were like little mini stories. The first story really was her origin story. And it starts out actually in the current day, which is in the 40s or 50s. Actually 1949, so 40s, where the signet ring actually has the magic power of allowing you to view the past. So it's sort of like a framework narrative story where they're looking back at the past and how this signet ring had been passed down from generation to generation. And they sort of kind of reincarnated and they kind of rediscover each other 4,000 years later. So that's kind of the story. It's a pretty interesting story. Next question comes from Mass Peanut. I'm not sure where you if you want to keep these videos solely about comics, but as a fairly new subscriber, it would be nice to know more about you. And he asked me a whole bunch of questions. Now, I was thinking, I could actually make a whole video to answer those questions, and I will, actually. So what I was thinking of doing is on Saturday's video, I'm going to interview myself and answer all of his questions. He has a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to talk about my collecting. I'm going to talk about my personal history and what I do for a living. All those questions will be answered on Saturday's video. So subscribe, go over and watch Saturday's video this Saturday in the future. So do that, and I will answer all those questions. And you'll learn all about my collecting, how I can buy all these crazy books, and how I got started in buying all these crazy books. So that will be on Saturday's video. Next question. Sorry not to answer it, but it will be answered on Saturday. Next question comes from William Barrett. Hi, Alan. What is meant by 4 colors? Maybe what it sounds like, but when I see a comic, I count more than 4 colors. Thank you as always. I really appreciate your thoughtful answers. Okay, so 4 colors is, okay, a couple things going on with 4 colors. First of all, 4 colors is actually a title of a comic series from Dell Comics, known as 4 Color Comics. That's, their big thing. Now, it was an anthology series. It had like many stories. It had some Disney stories. It had some Looney Tunes stories. It had TV series. So that's one thing. But the 4 Color, and it ran from 1939 to 1962. So very long time that it ran for. And the title 4 Color Comics was really referencing the process by which they created the colors within the comics. So they used 4 colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is actually black. And it became the CMYK model. That's how it's denoted. And what it is usually when we think of like the colors, we think of the primary colors, and you mix those to get your various colors. Well, the 4 color process works in a different way. So that's like the standard way is like an addition. Well, the CMYK model uses a subtraction method, where basically you subtract white light. So ink reduces the light that would be otherwise reflected. So the model is called the subtraction model because the inks subtract the colors red, green, and blue from white light. So white light minus red leaves cyan, white light minus green leaves magenta, white light minus blue leaves yellow. And to save cost, they can do the black by just using black ink. So that's the process that they used. And that way, it was a method to really get more variety of colors. And, because depending on how much you subtract, you can get like a wider range of colors. And you can use black, again, to save ink. Because generally, if you use the addition method, you're mixing a whole bunch of colors to get black, or so it's kind of a different method to create the colors used for the comics. Now, the first 25 books of 4-color comics, they were called Series 1, and they ran from 1939 to 1942. Then there was a second series of 4-color comics that ran from 1 again. It's restarted at 1, and then it ran for 1,354 issues. But there were certain titles there were certain issues where the number is skipped, so the people think that there's only 1,332 issues total, even though the insignia says that there's 1,354 issues. Wow. Okay. So the point is, it had a lot of issues. It ran for a really long time. And it's actually one of those titles where they would release multiple titles per month. So unlike many other titles where you would get, like, for example, DC Comics, which is actually the second longest running title for comics, American comics. The longest running series altogether is actually Beano, but the first longest American running comic series is actually 4 colors. And the reason that they are the longest in terms of number of issues is due to the fact that they would publish multiple issues per month. And so that's the 4-color for a little bit about the 4 colors. So it's really the title of the book and the process that they use to get the colors in the books. So hopefully that answers your question. I did a lot of research for that one. Okay, so the next question comes from Bat Grant. Alan, thanks for trying to answer the question about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I will do some more research on it. I have another question for you. I did the page count on my Walt Disney Comics and Stories number 151. I only counted 12 wraps. The cover says 52 pages. I checked the Grand Comics database, and all the stories are there. Do you know if there was a centerfold wrap or just 48 pages plus the front and back covers? Thanks, Grant. Yeah, you're right. So that's what it was. There's 12 inside wraps, and then there's the cover. Now, often when they count, they say 52 pages within a comic. They're actually including the cover 4 pages. So you get, if you have 12 wraps, a wrap is like a sheet of paper that gets folded. That's actually 4 pages. So 12 times 4 is 48. And then the cover, it has another 4 pages, which gives you 52. And that's how they get the number. So if you have 12 wraps inside of your comic, that is, like what you should have. Like there's nothing missing. And generally, when you buy a comic, this is one of those things you should check. You should count the number of pages to get to the centerfold. And if it's 6, which is actually 12, 12, if you count to 12 to get to the center, then you have 12 wraps, and therefore you have your 48 pages plus the cover, you get the 52. So that's one of the things that people should do when buying comics. Now, you should check all the pages to make sure there's no cutouts or anything like that, but to check the pages, it's always good to count to the center. And that's one way that you know that the centerfold isn't missing. Because on a lot of the Golden Age comics especially, they use kind of subpar staples or even just one staple, and the centerfold would fall out fairly frequently. So counting the pages is a really, really important thing to do. So next question comes from Mass Peanut. What do you think about comic book variants? More so the modern comics having 5 to 10 variant covers each. Actually, The Walking Dead, #1, actually had 253 variant covers. It's just, they went crazy with it. They didn't do them all at once at the beginning, but they did it over many years where they would have like new releases of variants for The Walking Dead #1. Now, here's my thoughts on the variants. Variant covers are a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because they're sort of saving the comic book industry right now. Because what it allows publishers to do is they can just put on a different cover, and instead of selling one book to somebody, they can sell 2 books to somebody. And right now what's happening is a lot of comics have actually low numbers, low publication numbers. Like if you kind of remember the 90s, you'd see publication numbers in the millions. Nowadays, it's maybe around 50,000. And part of that is people aren't interested in comics as much as they were before. Comics are not as big as they once were. And in order to try to maintain any market, the variant covers come into play, where you have, you can sell more comics to the smaller market. And that's generally what they're doing. So that's kind of the saving grace for the comic industry right now. Now, I kind of like the variant covers because, there's some really cool variant covers. Now, that being said, the bad thing is sometimes it's annoying because you see like 10 different variants, and most of them are very similar. Like the ones that really drive me nuts are like Dynamite has a tendency of doing this, where they use like, instead it'll be like blue tone or green tone, and like it's the same cover but it's just different tones. Those kind of bother me. I kind of like to see more originality. The other thing that I like about variant covers, actually, just to be more positive, is what it allows people to do is these store exclusive, where they'll have their own like Midtown Comics variant or some comic convention variant. I think those are kind of cool. And, it adds a little bit of excitement to the hobby, where people can go out and look for those rare variant covers. Also, the artists are producing variant covers where they will have it exclusive through their site. And I think that is one good thing that the industry is doing, because it is giving artists another means of generating revenue from creating awesome covers. And it encourages a higher level of creativity and art. So that's kind of my opinion about it. I do collect a lot of variant covers. I like homage covers. I like covers that bring back a lot of the old ideas and in a new twist. And a lot of those end up being variant covers on some random issue. So that's kind of my way of seeing it. Next question comes from K. Munin. Has there ever been an attempt to reprint any Golden Age comics mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent? Should more Golden Age comics be reprinted to give newer collectors a chance at getting those older books? Thanks again, as always. If you watch my recent haul video where I went to the Ottawa Comic-Con, you will see that actually the comics that I bought were reprints of books that were mentioned in Seduction of the Innocent. So we got Spicy Tales, is a title where they would reprint some of the Golden Age stories. So this is Spicy Tales, and I'll show you my little collection of Spicy Tales that I picked up. Actually, I have more from the series, but I'm just showing you the ones I got. Now, this one is a cover from one of the ones that was mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent. And these would feature some of the stories that were mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent. There's been other titles that have done it as well. There's actually one which was a 3D comic called Seduction of the Innocent. It actually directly reprinted the books that were, some of the books that were mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent, or SOTI. We'll say SOTI, that just makes it so much easier. There's been a few that have done it over the years. And you just, they're out there. There's different titles. Spicy Tales being one of them. I'm just trying to think of some of the other titles that did it as well. But there is a title called Seduction of the Innocent as well. So you can look for those and yeah, get some insight to the books from the Seduction of the Innocent. Now, there's also a website that you can use that you can actually read online those books that were mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent, and that would be Comic Book Plus. If you go to that site, you can read a lot of Golden Age books, and you can read some of the ones that were mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent. Now, Key Collector Comics is another site that you can use to find what are the list of books that were mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent. So you use the two, find out the list, and then go to the Comic Book Plus and read those books. And for the most part, like a lot of them, you'll be like, why was this mentioned? Why was this mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent? A lot of the stuff is very, very tame and kind of makes you wonder really why was it even mentioned in the Seduction of the Innocent. There was a lot more crazy stuff that didn't make it in, and some of the stuff that got mentioned in Seduction of the Innocent were pretty tame in comparison. Okay, next question comes from Jay Ogilvy. He wrote, Mylar bags versus generic comic bags. What really is the difference? Well, there's a huge difference. So Mylar bags are like, I think these are Mylar. Might be generic. Yeah, these are generic. But Mylar bags, you can feel that they're a little bit thicker. So, and they're usually clearer. You can, they really showcase the comic quite well. And generally, they have a longer duration that they will last. So if you keep your comics and you don't change the bags, generally the bags will the poly bags will generally degrade over time. And they're only supposed to last, they say that they last 50 years, but really they only last 3 to 8 years. And so that means every 3 to 8 years, you got to change those bags, or the bags will kind of like get crinkly and look a little funny over time, because the plastic will naturally degrade over time. Now with Mylar, those same bags, the Mylar bags can last up to 150 years. So you just have to change them once every 150 years and you're fine. So pretty much, I think we're going to be set with Mylar bags in terms of not having to change them. The other thing that's interesting about Mylar bags is not just the clarity and the length that they survive for, but they are 350 times more resistant to diffusion of gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide. And what those gases do is they degrade the comics. So by having these Mylar bags, you actually are protecting your books from the natural breakdown of the gases that are just in the air around us. The other thing that they are good at protecting comics with is they're kind of resistant to bug attacks. So bugs are less likely to be able to attack your books in Mylar than they would be within a poly bag. They also prevent moisture and fungus, mold, mildew attacks, oils and grease from harming your books. So Mylar bags kind of are the premium way of protecting your comics. So I hope that helps. So it kind of justifies the expense of the Mylar bags because they are more expensive. That's really a big difference between the two. So Bradford Dillman wrote, I agree with you with the beginning of and end of the Golden Age. Action 1 is logically the starting point for the reasons you mentioned. Of course, that means Superman technically appeared in the Platinum Age in a few in the May 1938 Action 1 ads. I'm watching the auction for More Fun 31, which is going on. I've mentioned to you before, it's the first printed picture of Superman and the most iconic cover in the hobby. Thoughts? Okay, so More Fun Comics number 31 is a very rare book, hard to find actually. And because it does have a full page ad for Action Comics number 1, it can actually go for quite a bit of money. It nowhere near Action Comic number 1 status, but it is still a pricey book and hard to find book. It's still out of my price range. But I think it is a good one to have. It's sort of like having those prototype of first appearances or first ad appearances of characters. People kind of gravitate to them. And I think over time, as people become more and more serious collectors, those early ad appearances will actually become more and more valuable. There's a lot of books that have already become more valuable just because they are those first ad appearances. So, but the early more fun books are in general pretty rare and pretty hard to find. So yeah, Fun 31 itself doesn't have a great cover, but it does have that iconic cover inside of it. So interesting book, definitely one that I've been looking for, but have not found one within my price range, if that makes sense. Okay, next question comes from Kuramas, who wrote, who are the artists today whose covers you look for? Okay, so I'm going to show you a bunch, and I put them kind of in an awkward spot. I didn't realize. Gotta grab them. Okay, so it's a big stack. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to show you a big stack of modern artists that I collect. So I gotta move some things around here. So the first one is Andrew Popoy, and he did a lot of these kind of lingerie variant covers for Archie. So I really like this one. It's got that kind of green tone to it, and it's just quite pretty. This is my signed copy from Andrew Popoy. And next one that's really popular is J. Scott Campbell. And this is Uncanny X-Men with Psylocke. And this is issue 510, the variant cover by J. Scott Campbell. He did a lot of really great stuff. And he's one that I collect. So I'll purposely collect both of these artists, actually. Another artist that I'll get any of his books is Bruce Timm. I really like Bruce Timm, so when I see a Bruce Timm cover, I'll generally pick it up. And this is Amazing Spider-Man 49, the Bruce Timm variant. Another modern artist that I collect is Adam Hughes. So we got nice Black Canary cover. This is Deathstroke Inc. number 1, the Adam Hughes variant. And then we have another artist that I really like is David Nakayama. This is his Emma Frost. And this is Inferno number 2. Just a really great David Nakayama cover. And you can recognize his thing because he'll have like a DNA thing. It's DNA. David Nakayama. And so these are all ones that I collect. Actually, I still pretty much, so all the ones listed here. So then we have Linsner, Joseph Linsner. And this is Cry for Dawn number 2. I mean, this is from the 90s, but he's still producing a lot of covers. And he does a lot of the Betty Page covers. And yeah, just really great stuff. Speaking of Betty Page, we got the Warren Lau, I believe. Yeah, Warren Lau. Betty Page cover. Another artist that I really like. And then this artist I don't really collect, but I really like her stuff. It's like, so I'll pick it up if I see it sometimes. Is Amanda Connor. I just thought this was a cute one. This is Convergence number 7. Amanda Connor variant. Then another one that I really, really like is Nathan Surdy. Surdy? I think Surdy, actually. I always mispronounce his name. And this is Naughty and Nice Halloween Special. It's just a really great one. He draws a lot of sexy girls. He's also known for doing the tattoo style, where you can see it on this one, where they have like a lot of tattoos. He'll do a lot of covers where the girls have a lot of tattoos. And then finally, one more is Sodomaki. And this is one of my favorite covers, actually, from the modern era. This is a Sodomaka, maybe, Sodomaka. I'm totally brutalizing their name. This is Catwoman number 43. That's just a really great cover. I like the little glass of milk, and I think it's really cute. So yeah. So those are a bunch of modern artists that I really like. I hope you enjoy those ones. Another one or two that I might also chase after a few times would be Jenny Frizen and sometimes Peach Momoko. Sometimes. So those would be a couple others that I sometimes go for. Next question comes from Comic Meg Musings, who wrote, here's a fun one, Alan. From your collection, which is your favorite books from each era? Golden, silver, bronze, copper, and modern. Okay, so I'm going to put these down. Oops, this is going to fall. And I'm going to show you my favorite comics per age. First, we're going to start with modern. Zombie Tramp, number 1. This is my absolute favorite, bar none, modern book. I really do love this book. I have it, like, usually it's like the thing that's holding up my papers. I always have it in front of me because I really do like this book. It was a super hard book to find. It's got that kind of rarity, scarcity that I really enjoy. It's a book that it was so challenging to find it. I've only seen it offered once. I picked it up when I saw it offered. I just really love this book. It's just such a cool book. Yeah, I know it's weird. A lot of people will be like, oh, there's so many better modern books, but that is my favorite modern book. Now going to the next age, which is Copper Age. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is from 1984, and it's a really great Copper Age book, and it kind of is the book that really started the Copper Age in many ways, with the anthropomorphic characters and independent titles. So this is kind of the grail of the Copper Age. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's a nice wraparound cover. And you can always tell that it's a first print by the little drop of blood that's in the T. If it has that little drop of blood in the T, then you know it's a first printing. So this is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. So it is just a book that, was one that I always wanted as a kid, because it's sort of the grail book, and I always wanted to get it, and I always liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was like, oh wow, and I finally got it. So that was a really big one that I really wanted to get. The next one is a little different from some of these others. This one is House of Secrets, and this is my Bronze Age favorite book. House of Secrets #92. And it's the first appearance of Swamp Thing. And it's a really cool story. It's like, I like these ones. I've always liked covers that tell a story. And this one does tell that story. You got the girl, she's brushing her hair, and in through the window comes this monster that who knows what's going to do to her. It's like, it's setting up that scared look. I forgot the girl's name. I'm blanking on the girl's name, but this was actually one of the people that worked at the office, I believe, that they liked. Like, was it Mary Severin or one of those ones? Somebody that was at the office that they thought was really cute, and they used her as the model. And people in the comments are going to tell me, oh, you got it totally wrong. But you guys can comment and tell me what the real person's name is, and if I'm wrong or right. So it says Bernie Wrightson cover, 1971. So very beginning of the Bronze Age of comics. But this one is just one of my favorite covers. Actually, I really love the way it's set up. Just a quite nice cover. So that's actually by far my favorite Bronze Age book. The next age is Silver. Silver, I had a few books that I could have like one of the books that I would have picked, but I thought, oh, I won't pick it because it's not really a comic, is Vampirella #1. To me, that's one of my favorite books from the Silver Age, because I really like Vampirella. It's like my favorite character. She's my favorite character. Now, this book is kind of like the next biggest thing, and it's a comic. So it's Amazing Fantasy 15. And, this is kind of like the Grail book. I mean, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I really enjoyed the movies with Tobey Maguire. I thought they really redefined superhero movies for me, that they could have a serious tone to them. And I always liked Spider-Man. I used to watch Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man as a kid. I'd swing from couch to couch and all this kind of stupid stuff as a kid. Spider-Man, this is like a Grail book. And when I got this, I was so thrilled. This is like, a lot of these books are based on my thrill level when I pick them up, and having them actually in my collection. This was pretty big for me. I think it was like 6 months worth of payments that I did for this book, and I was super excited to add this to my collection. So, yeah, this is my favorite Silver Age book. My next one is Golden Age. And this one is kind of one where you probably could have guessed it. This is All-Star Comics #8, which is the first appearance of Wonder Woman. And the reason this is my favorite Golden Age book is because Wonder Woman is one of my favorite characters. And to get her first appearance was kind of a major deal for me. Like, this is a huge book. Also, this book really kind of made me a serious collector. Before it, I had never spent more than a few $100s on a comic. And this book was several thousands of dollars. And it just really set me on that journey of going after bigger books. So kind of was the book that really made me a serious collector. And I really kind of see it that way. When I look at this book, I think, wow, this is the book that really got me started becoming a mega collector for comic books. So if it wasn't for this book, I probably wouldn't have any of those other ones that I just showed. because this one really set me on that path. So I really love this book for all those reasons, and still actually think it's a cool cover too. Now there's one more age that you didn't mention. I always like to give a little extra, and that is the Bronze Age. Not Bronze Age, Platinum Age. Platinum Age. So Platinum Age is from before Action Comics #1. And I like first appearances. I'm a big first appearance collector. That's kind of a lot of my books are first appearance books. This book is a first appearance book. And it's not just one first appearance. It is a lot of first appearances. And it's a cool book because a lot of the first appearances are on the cover. You got Little Abner. You got Tarzan. You got Ella Cinders. And you got just a whole bunch of characters making their first appearances on this cover. It says Tarzan, Little Abner, Fritz Ritz, which is right there, Fritz Ritz, or Fritzy Ritzy, Ellie Cinders, Captain and the Kids. Yeah, Captain and the Kids right there. So just a really cool book for the fact that it has lots of first appearances. And you got all the characters on the back as well. So they, just a really cool book. So yeah, and it's in a reasonable grade too. Excuse me. Okay, so that was a little bit dusty. Okay, so those are my favorite books from the various ages. I hope you enjoyed those. Next question comes from AJ Guez. What is the first comic to bear the approved by the Comic Code Authority badge? First Marvel / DC title. Okay, so I actually did a lot of research for this one. If you do the following search, and then I'll tell you how I did my research, and it's kind of the best way to figure out this answer. So what happened, you got the Seduction and Innocent book came out early in 1954. Then you have the Senate hearings in April to June of 1954. Then the Comic Code Authority came into play in September. So it was like a really boom, boom, boom. A whole bunch of things happened, and the Comic Code Authority came out in September of 1954. However, it didn't get applied until the following year. The first books really that had the label of Comic Code Authority on them appeared in March of 1955. Now, just because they have the label of March of 1955 doesn't mean that they actually hit the shelves in March of 1955. Generally, books actually appear many months earlier on the comic shelves than their actual publish date on the books. It's a weird thing, but it is a thing that they always seem to do. Now, DC, the first DC book to have the Comic Code Authority, from what I could tell, and this is like after going through 8 pages on my comic shop of 50 books each. I don't know how many books were on each page. I think 50. 8 pages, so 400 books that were all with that March of 1955 date on them, but really published earlier than that. And then what I did is I verified each of them in the Grand Comic Database to find out when they were actually published or hit the newsstands. The first DC book was Our Army at War number 32, which was released actually in 1955, January 2nd. So that's the first book from DC that I could tell. Now, Batman was a little bit later. Batman number 90 came out in with the first Comic Code Authority stamp on a Batman title in like 9 days later, which is January 11th. And Wonder Woman was a little bit more delayed. It came out in February. And that was on Wonder Woman number 73. So those are the DC ones, the kind of the major titles. There was also Mud and Jeff that kind of was in between those. Mud and Jeff and Superboy also had titles in between. Mud and Jeff, I think 77, and Superboy. I forgot what issue number of Superboy. But those were in between. So they were fairly early ones. Marvel, however, was way ahead of the game. So they actually had books in December of 1954 that hit the newsstands with the Comic Code Authority on them. And the first one that I could find from Marvel was Jungle Tales number 4. And that was from 1954, December 6th. So almost a full month before DC had Comic Code Authority stamp on their books. Now, I checked other companies, and from what I can tell, actually Marvel was the first to have the Comic Code Authority stamp on any comic. So I think, and yeah, maybe other people can do some research and prove me wrong. I'd love to know if this is really the answer. But from what I can tell, Jungle Tales number 4 is the first comic to ever have a Comic Code Authority stamp. Now, there's other titles that I saw that had really early publishing dates, but I couldn't find out when they actually hit the newsstand. That wasn't in the Grand Comics database, so I couldn't verify whether or not they actually came out before or after the Jungle Tales number 4. So if somebody else has more information, I'd love to hear it, but from what I can tell, Jungle Tales number 4 is the first Comic Code Authority book. So I hope that answers your question. Next question comes from Wilson IR. Hello, Alan, the comic collector geek. I recently learned of a writer named Gaylord Dubois while grading a Red Rider comic. What do you know of this prolific comic book creator? Thank you, Richard Wilson. Okay, so he is actually, I never really heard of this guy, which is kind of sad, but he actually wrote 3,000 comics. So pretty amazing, pretty amazing guy. He was born in 1899 and lived to 1993. And he was really, I think his last published work was actually in 1995, 2 years after he died, where they actually, released some of his stuff that he was working on right up till he died. And he was known for doing a lot of Westerns and animal stories. He was really talented at writing things like Lassie, or some kind of books where the animal, Lone Ranger's horse, Trigger, like books about those characters. He also wrote a lot of books like Roy Rogers and Gene Audrey. He also wrote in the Red Rider series and Little Beaver in the Red Rider series. Another thing that he was known for was Martin the Marvel Man, which ran from 1939 all the way up to 1942 in issues of Popular Comics number 46 to number 71, I should say. And his he was first in Popular Comics in issue number 44. He used a different pseudonym for himself. He often would write under a pseudonym, and his pseudonym was Alberta Hartje, which Hartje means heart in Dutch. And he just thought, he liked putting heart into his writing. So he thought that was cool. That's really all I know, which is, a few entries on Wikipedia and a few entries on the Grand Comic Database, and, just learning about him as a writer. But he was very prolific. As I said, 3,000 books. That's pretty crazy. It's kind of sad in a way. A lot of the writers don't get as much credit as the artists do, and they a little bit more obscure in terms of what comic collectors know about. There are some famous writers like Stan Lee, obviously, but for the most part, a lot of these ones that are super prolific are not as well known. But very cool guy, very impressive. So that's all I learned about him. Next question comes from Martin Bow. Are there any comic channels which show just good girl comics? If so, can you please shout them out? Well, there are no real channels that specifically showcase good girl comics. Like my channel, for example, I show some good girl comics mixed in with a various amount of stuff, but not specifically about good girl. And I don't think there's any very specific channels to good girl comics. However, there are some good channels that do have a lot of content about good girl comics. And the two that I would say would be Casually Comics, really good one. She's a Canadian as well. She does a pretty good job, and she's always wearing different wigs and stuff, and she gets into reading the comics, especially comics from the Silver Age. She'll read, even though those might not be good girl, she'll talk about the sexiness of the girls in it, so kind of good girl a bit. The other one is Pop Comics. Now, Sean does a really good job of showcasing a lot of good girl comics, modern and right back into the golden age. He has a really great collection of Patsy Walker and Katie Keene, so and Archie comics actually. So really, he's a really great collector. Massive collection, like makes my collection look really tiny. So his channel is quite good as well. He'll have a tendency of making longer videos where he really just shows like hundreds of books. So really good channel. So definitely worth checking him out. Last question comes from Kurt Animinio. I probably totally messed that up, but I apologize in advance. Durka Animinio? Oh, jeez. And actually, he's written me several times. I should really know how to pronounce his name better. Okay, but sorry about your name. Messing it up. Okay, so do you separate pre-code horror from a general golden age? As this is a whole grade insanity has been spawned by CGC, as a whole grade insanity being spurred by CGC dies away, people will get back into collecting and not treating comics like sports cars. All right, okay, so do I? That's what he wrote, and then he also said, "Are you mostly just collecting or trying to make cash?" So I'm only a collector. I don't. This is not how I make money. You're basically getting an insight into my personal comic collection, my PCH. This is my PCH. I don't actually ever plan to sell these books until maybe close to my death. If I'm on my deathbed, I'll be like, maybe I should sell my comics so that I don't burden my family with them. That'd be it. But in terms of separating pre-code horror from golden age, the way I see it is this. I always see golden age as being the main umbrella category for the time period of 1938 to 1954, kind of 55. So that's that umbrella. Books that appeared in there have a whole bunch of different varieties. There's romance, there's pre-code horror, there's World War II comics, there's good girl art comics, there's sci-fi, there's a whole bunch of genres within that. So for me, pre-code horror is just a genre within the whole golden age experience. Yeah, so that's how I see it. So it's just really the horror titles, the horror genre within the pre-code books in general. So yeah, I hope that hope that answers your question. And that is it. Bit of a longer video. I hope you enjoyed this longer video. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer, put it in the comments below and I will do my best to answer it. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.